All right, guys. So we are getting started. Very good. So today we are running office hours in English, and it will be dedicated to consulting, private equity, and venture capital. First of all, I want to apologize to our English-speaking viewers for not showing a lot of content in English recently. We're gonna fix that, and the first step will be these office hours, and then I guess we're gonna run a few interviews in English, which might be interesting for you. And of course, we're gonna have more interviews in Russian, but still we're gonna add subtitles so you can read all that stuff and ask questions and basically participate in what you find interesting. Well, first of all, why we're talking about consulting, private equity, and venture capital? Well, for consulting, it's obvious, I think, because I have quite a lot of experience in consulting, and because we are running consulting prep at FLES. Private equity and venture capital are slightly different animals, right? Uh, First of all, I don't have work experience in private equity. I wanted to work in private equity, and I did a fair amount of digging into that industry, but eventually I decided not to go into there, and I'll talk about it today. Venture capital is something I know even less about. So you might wonder, why is this guy going to talk about private equity and venture capital? First of all, because I have some ideas about those industries that I developed while I dug into those industries, because I obviously wanted to work there, while, like most consultants and IB people. So I still have something to share with you, even though I didn't work there. And secondly, I have a lot of friends in those industries. And if I understand that you guys are interested in private equity and venture capital and want to learn more about those industries, to an extent that my knowledge of those industries is not enough, I will definitely be able to talk to those guys, to my friends, and ask those questions, and maybe even run a few interviews so that you can ask questions and we dig into them and, well, cover all everything that you find interesting. So that's it. That said, I expect most of the questions, frankly speaking, to be about consulting, and this is something I can talk about for a long, long, long time. And today we basically have something like an hour, and I think an hour will be enough, because of course most of our viewers are Russian speakers, and English speaking stream is not that comfortable. So and of course you can ask questions in Russian. I will read them in English and tackle them in English. But questions in English are always welcome, and most welcome in this stream today. I think so. We're going to run 1 hour session, and if we are running out of questions, we'll end up quicker. If we still have a lot of questions, then we'll, I think, add another office hours sometime after New Year, and I'll cover those questions that you still have in mind and in your pockets. So, right, let's get started. And I don't see any questions so far. In this case, I think I'll come up with a few questions that you asked previously concerning private equity. Private equity is a very interesting industry for many, I think, because on the one hand, you can do operational improvements. So you're basically building a business or rebuilding a business, making it work better, and at the same time, you earn quite a lot of money, because I think, well, it's pretty obvious that people in private equity earn much more than people in consulting. I'm not sure that's the case for Russia, though, because Russian private equity funds are not that big. But if you take Western funds, like especially the US funds, or even European funds, you'll definitely earn more there than being an associate or a business analyst somewhere in consulting. What I did not like about private equity, uh, and this is something I did not like based on my one-on-one interviews with a few of my friends who work in consulting for in private equity. Sorry, for example, in Blackstone and Bain Capital in London, and I think in New York, and also based on my experience working with clients. While I was working at McKinsey, and the clients were obviously private equity funds. primarily European ones, but a few Asian funds as well. So the things that I did not like about private equity were, first, uh, you don't grow that much as you would expect compared to consulting, because private equity funds are usually smaller, right? And at the head of private equity funds, there are the founders, and you cannot outgrow founders, of course. You're always below, and there is not much hierarchy below them. So while you're an associate, you can become a director or something, but you cannot become the managing director. You'll never be there, and there's not much more room for growth. And that's something that even people at private equity companies acknowledge. That's not something that I came up with myself. That's what they told me. Second thing that I did not like, I think, is the crazy hours. And by crazy, I mean something even crazier than those in consulting. For example, when you work in consulting, you don't have any free time at all during the weekdays, but that's fine. You can get used to that. But you can at least expect to have some time off to spend with your family and friends on the weekends. Well, this is not the case in private equity. Well, that's not exactly true, frankly speaking. If there's no deal running and you're not taking care of any of that project stuff, you won't need to work crazy hours, and you'll be pretty much free even during the weekdays. But the problem is that if you want to gain experience, you need to work in deals. And if you want to remain in the funds at all, you need to work on deals. And when you're working in a deal, you need to work a lot. And then you're working weekdays and you're working weekends, and you never really stop working until you finish the deal. Once you finish the deal, there is always the next deal coming up your way. And this is the good news, because if new deals are not coming your way, you're not getting experience. So this is not something that I liked personally, because I have a family and because I understand that I don't want to spend all my life working on these financial projects, because at the end of the day, that's not something I will be proud of when I'm 60 or 50. Uh, so I decided that dedicating so much time to work is not something I would like to do. I guess those are the two major things that I did not like about private equity. So not being able to grow after 2 or 3 years, and not being able to spend time with family. But besides that, I think nothing came my way that I did not like. Well, maybe I'll recall something else and I'll get back to that. In the meantime, I have a few questions here. Hello, Victor. Could you please tell us about the most interesting and challenging project in your consulting experience? Wow, good question. The most interesting is not necessarily the most challenging, right? Uh, I think I'm not able to come up with one specific project that I like. I think there were a few projects in that I liked most. They were private equity engagements. They were pretty tough in terms of timing, meaning like 3 or 4 weeks. They were projects in London, and those were projects that I was a BA on. I was a business analyst, and the manager was a German guy. And well, in consulting, everyone knows that if the manager is a German guy, expect disaster, because Germans are hardworking, organized, super organized, and they will make you work. Well, I always thought that way as well, but at the same time, and I was scared of those two projects. Not of the first, actually. Of the second, I was not scared anymore, because I like the manager, and I'm going to tell you about it in a moment. Um, I was a bit scared because I knew, well, the project is tough. The manager is German, so that should be tough. So I was getting ready for not sleeping at all. But then when I came in on the first day, and I came to the London office at McKinsey, and when I met the German guy, I was impressed by how organized he was, but also by how efficient he was. And I remember the phrase that he told me, and that I learned, I think, for the rest of my life. He said, "Well, guys, I'm not proud of having to work after 10 o'clock at night. Some people are proud of that at McKinsey. Well, I'm not. I'm not telling my friends, hey, look how much I worked. I'm so hardworking. while you guys are lazy and you're not doing the real work. He told me, well, if you're efficient, you can finish everything at 9 p.m. and then go have some steak, or go out with friends, or go meet your family, or whatever, and you don't have to work on weekends. Oh, and that was again not important for me. Uh, I guess not that important because I didn't have kids at that moment. But well, but I was beginning to appreciate it after two years at McKinsey, anyways. So, and this guy kept his promise. He worked hard, but at the same time, he organized the work so that we did only the most necessary things, the 80-20, so to speak. We didn't do the analysis that no one would care about. We didn't run the interviews that no one would care about. We didn't build the models that clients didn't want. We built only the things that the client really wanted and the client asked about. And the client was super happy. And moreover, we indeed managed to finish every day. We started at, well, I think we started at 9 a.m., 9 in the morning, and we finished at 9 p.m. So 12 hours. And by consulting perspective, 12 hours is not that much, right? 12 hours is what you would expect a normal project. And that was a private equity due diligence engagement. So due diligence is always more difficult, always something where you would expect an overnight, you would expect long hours, you would expect something like 16 hours or maybe not sleeping at all. So that was not the case here. Because he was efficient and because he knew what we were dealing with. And because he also had the expertise in the industry where we ran our due diligence. The industry was telecommunications. There was a telecommunications company, I think in some country in Europe. I'm not sure how I could mention something else, but that should be enough. So why I like the project? Because the team was great. We learned a lot. We worked hard. We didn't miss a single moment. We didn't miss like 5 minutes or anything. And we did a good job. And the client was happy. The partners and directors at McKinsey were happy. And we visited like, I don't know, 5 steakhouses in London in just 3 weeks. That was amazing. And well, and my major takeaway from that project was that you need to work to deliver results and not to spend hours. Because sometimes, unfortunately, even in the Moscow office, what we did was like waiting for client input, doing some slides just in case, preparing for some meetings that didn't really happen, and kind of wasting time. That was not the case in this project. And this is where I learned that German hard work is not necessarily working long hours. This is more like working efficiently and making the right things, doing the right things. And I was impressed by that. And this is something I try to do in my daily work now at Plus as well. So that we do the most important things and not waste our time on useless stuff, something that won't make a difference at the end of the day. In 2 weeks, have an interview in PE fund. Okay, manager told that I will be asked about valuation methods, etc. Any recommendations how to prepare? Does it matter that a candidate has a robust knowledge in valuation? Yep, it does matter. And you need to be fluent in leverage buyout modeling. So you need to be able to build an Excel model of a leveraged buyout, and you need to explain all the bits and pieces of how it works. I had an interview in a London private equity fund. Well, that was actually an American private equity fund, but the team was based in London. And I failed that interview because I was not really fluent in LBO modeling. So they asked me to build an LBO model, and I think I spent too much time, and I made a few mistakes in taxes or in interest rate calculation, stuff like that. Well, that was obvious that I would make those mistakes because I never encountered those things in consulting. That you don't really need that, but and I didn't really prepare well. Looking back into that experience and realizing that, well, probably better preparation was necessary, I think I would Google LBO modeling. I would spend more time building a few models from scratch in Excel and also on paper, so that I understand how all the finance stuff works in those models. I think I would even do something like CFA 1, just in case some finance stuff comes up my way. I think CFA 2 and 3 would be overkill. I wouldn't spend time on those, but CFA 1 would probably quite useful. It's not difficult after all. It's mostly basic finance concepts, basic economics concepts, but something that you might encounter in an interview. So, going back to your question, does it matter that a candidate has a robust knowledge in evaluation? Yep, I think it does, and this is somewhere I failed personally, and this is something this is an area I would prepare better if I decided to go back to interviewing in private equity funds. Okay, uh, why people go to private equity? Well, good question. I wanted to go to private equity because the work is interesting. Because this is like consulting, but where you have a say, where you have decision making authority. You can actually participate in a steering committee, and you can participate in discussion whether you want to invest money in this specific company or not. This is something you will never encounter in consulting. In consulting, you just give advice. And this is, I think, the major thing consultants and ex-consultants detest about consulting, that you don't have authority. You don't have authority to make decisions. In private equity, you do have authority. And you also, well, you're running the project, and you're having consultants as your servants. So you can ask consulting partner to look into this thing, to look into that thing. You can ask them to redo an analysis. You're actually managing consultants. So if you want to kind of be on top of consultants, then working private equity is the right place, I guess. Also, if you work in private equity for a few years, I think you can go to business school and then switch direction to maybe venture capital. Well, venture capital is also a bit of a problem because the vertical growth is not that easy there as well. But after you gain connections after a business school, after you gain more expertise, you can try to start your own fund. That's by no means easy. That's not easy, and not many people manage to do that. But without experience, without private equity experience and venture capital experience, you will never be able to start your fund, I think. Well, unless you are a super rock star startupper and you manage to sell your company for a huge price, and now you have a lot of funds and you want to invest them somewhere, and you have a lot of connections so that you can build your fund. But at the same time, you won't know anything about investments, right? So your fund will most likely fail. And this is where private equity experience might be actually useful. And if you want to go to a hedge fund, you would also need private equity experience, I think. Without private equity experience and just based on your consulting experience, even if it's a big three consulting, you won't be able to get into hedge funds, I think. Of course, you won't be able to get into hedge funds straight out of some Russian company or even some European company. If you want to work in hedge funds in the United States, and this is where the biggest hedge funds are based, you need to go work in private equity or some other finance industry. Probably go into work, do an MBA, and do an internship, maybe in a hedge fund, which is not easy. That's not easy at all, but it's doable. And if you do that, you'll be able to land a job offer at a hedge fund eventually. Well, again, building a career at a hedge fund is not very easy because, well, vertical growth there is difficult as well. But if you get in a hedge fund, I don't think you will ever worry about getting a bigger salary anytime in your life. Probably, I think we're working as a manager, and you can grow into a manager at a hedge fund. And working as a manager at a fund will cover, I think, all needs that you can come up with concerning money. Like, okay, you won't be able to buy your own island, I guess, but buying real estate won't be that difficult for you anymore. All right, how to improve English for the interview? Practice English, I think. Well, the ideal setup would be if you study somewhere in an English-speaking country, and even not an English-speaking country, but an English-speaking master's or English-speaking program will do the job. But I guess if you're studying in English somewhere, you wouldn't be asking this question. So I think you're asking this question because you don't use English a lot. If you don't use English a lot, I suggest you try to find as much practice as possible. And now there are lots of opportunities to practice English, from formal courses and tutors to all kinds of informal stuff, like participating in English speaking clubs, going abroad for some educational programs, some short-term educational programs, participating in, well, I think even if you participate in some programming competitions, right? Even if you participate in Kaggle, you need to know English to a certain level, because all the assignments will be in English. And of course, my best advice about English is some debating society. I personally participated in debating competitions and debating club at the MGIMO University, MGIMO in Moscow, and that was amazing. I think that's the most important boost to my English over the course of like the recent 10 years, because just learning English at the university is not very efficient. Using English at an international company is also good, but well, again, most of the time you work in Russian. Even if you work at McKinsey in Moscow, most of the time you'll be speaking Russian, unless you go work somewhere like I did in London. But that's a different story, and I think that's not very easy to replicate. Yeah, so I'm thinking of something easier, and the easiest thing would be obviously the debate club. I think that's called, I'm gonna type it right now, that's called MGIMO Debate Club, MGIMO DC. Go and Google that, you'll find them in contact and Facebook. I think you can join the meetups, even if you're not a student, even if you're not a MGIMO student, or for that matter, not a student at all. So go participate. The debates are in English, and you need to talk a lot. You need to think in English on your feet, which is difficult, but which is the best practice of English you can get. So if you go there, of course, if you go there for like 2 times, that won't help. But if you attend the meetings for maybe 6 months, you will see lots of progress, and that'll cover your interview needs, and I think much more than your interview needs. After all, your interviews will most likely be held by Russian speakers, and Russian speakers are not that strong in English, especially if they are not graduates of MGIMO or something. They might be graduates of some technical universities, so they are pretty smart, but not that strong in English, and that will be a great opportunity for you. So you shouldn't worry that much about your interview. But yeah, better safe than sorry. So if you're able to prepare, then definitely prepare. Uh, some advice on how to get an offer from Blackstone or similar PE funds. Okay, that's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna tell you. So go do masters in a good university like London Business School, London School of Economics, Bocconi University, St. Gallen, something like that. Get an internship in investment banking during your first year. Do the internship, get an internship, get an offer for a full-time position after your master's, work for 3 years at the investment bank, then apply to private equity through recruiting companies. I can talk about that more if necessary, and then prepare for private equity interviews, and then get your offer. So that's by no means easy. Again, you'll need to invest a few years. Well, actually, I think 5 years, but you can get there. If you are not working in private equity, and if you're not working in investment banking, or at least in consulting, getting into private equity will be super tough. Another way to get into private equity is to get into consultancy, and most likely you'll need to get into big three, McKinsey, Bain, or BCG. Unfortunately, they don't usually look into resumes from other companies. You'll need to get some private equity experience in different countries, especially in the UK. That's valued most. And if you work in the private equity program at McKinsey, for example, then you need to do a good deal of preparation for private equity interviews, something like that I did, well, now 4 years ago. Then you apply to different positions. Then you'd better not screw your interviews like I did when I applied, but you should be smarter than I am. And then, well, then you can get there. So after McKinsey, I had 2 interviews, and I didn't really push for more. So I think I could push for more. But again, my experience was not just McKinsey, but also McKinsey in Europe and in Asia. So I had different projects in various countries. If I worked for Russian state companies, or maybe some oil and gas companies, mining companies in Russia, my experience won't be valuable for private equities in Europe. So because I worked with private equity companies in Europe, my experience was kind of valued, and I had a chance to interview, and I successfully failed that chance. But now I'm happy about that because I don't want to get there anymore, and that was the beginning of this stream. Well, another way to get into private equity is actually through, surprise, surprise, MBA. I have a friend who was a lawyer in Russia, and he went to MBA in Chicago, and he got a chance to work in some boutique investment firm, investment bank in New York. And after that, well, I didn't really talk to him for like a year, but I think after that experience, he would be able to switch into private equity if he wanted to. Again, this is not easy. You need to get into a good business school like Chicago. You need to network your way into an investment banking internship. You need to work for a few years in an investment bank, and working in an investment bank is very difficult, guys. So prepare not to sleep at all. But if you manage to do that, you'll be able to get into private equity. Anything easier? I don't think so, unfortunately. I think that's one of the reasons we're not helping people prepare for private equity interviews, because so few people can get there because of the pedigree, so to speak. You need to have some prior experience here, some prior experience there in order to apply. That the candidate pool is very small, and obviously that would be a very small preparation pool for us to build courses on. So we're not working there. But if you want to get there, of course you can. Of course you can. But be prepared to invest a lot of effort into getting there. All right. CFA 1 covered. Good job. Okay, we are running out of questions so far, which is good because that means we can finish earlier. Okay, next question. Very good, Vanchan. What do you think about career at infrastructure PE or construction companies, equity investors with focus on infrastructure like Vinci in Russia? Well, I think like almost all specialized funds, the problem with your experience in specialized fund is that it's very specialized again. So if you're working in construction or infrastructure PE fund, it's very difficult to apply your expertise that you gain in this fund somewhere else. Once you finish your work in this fund, you'll be able to go work into some other infrastructure fund, but not in a more generalist fund. But the good news is that right now most of the funds are starting to specialize. You're not able to be a generalist anymore. You need to work and you need to gain some very focused experience. So maybe if you can work in a good fund with a good flow of deals, and especially in a good team, you'll be able to gain some valuable experience and go then work in a bigger funds, or maybe switch back to industry and then start working as a manager, or maybe some top manager of a company that you used to oversee as an investment professional. So that might be a good avenue for your career. So I would say that if infrastructure investment is something that you like, then going there and working there is a good idea. If not, and if you're considering this just as a way to get into private equity, then, well, consider your interest in private equity at all, because you'll need to specialize. And if infrastructure in private equity is something you're okay with in terms of specialization, then go there. If not, well, consider something else. But, well, I think if I wanted to work in private equity, I would definitely consider working in private equity infrastructure. Okay. Other questions, guys? Anything else you would like to ask about private equity or consulting? Or maybe, well, anything else career-wise, so to speak, that comes to your mind? Okay, interesting. Because I remember the last time we held office hours, which was like 3 weeks ago, there were lots and lots of questions. And I think we talked like for 3 hours. And for 3 hours, questions kept coming, and I kept answering them. I was like, oh, they're never gonna finish. But eventually they finished, but that was 3 hours of my talking without stop. And now the questions are almost over. So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna give you 1 more minute to ask a question if you think anything else is something worth knowing, or me worth answering. If not, we're gonna call it a day and get back to the office hours, I think, in a month or something. Next month, I think we're gonna run office hours in Russian, and we're gonna change English, Russian, Russian, English, just to make sure we cover both languages, since some people speak English and not Russian, and vice versa. Vlad has come up with a question: how career growth in data science compares to more traditional consulting finance jobs? Mhm. Well, I think now data science is a bit of a hype, and now you can, if you get into data science, you can get a salary similar to consulting, slightly smaller than consulting, but at the same time with very good work hours. So you finish like 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. and you get salary comparable to McKinsey. A bit smaller, but still. This is amazing. This is a great deal, I think, but I'm not sure that this deal is going to last for a long time. And I'm not sure that data science as a career per se is something that will last. Well, I might be wrong here, but I think that you need to have some solid foundation, probably in computer science, so that when you mix the computer science foundation and data science foundation, you can, of course, grow a lot, and you can get pretty far in IT companies, because IT companies will definitely value that kind of knowledge and that kind of experience. But that's not something you can get easily. And the consulting / finance avenue of your career and data science / computer science avenue of your career are completely different animals. So that's if you're good in computer science, you won't be able to switch quickly to consulting and finance, and vice versa. If you are good at finance and consulting, you won't necessarily switch to data science quickly, because, well, the knowledge and the expertise that you need to have are pretty different. So you'll need to invest a lot of time and effort in order to switch. But if you want to do that, you can do that. But again, I think the usual recommendation applies. If crunching data, numbers, and building algorithms, and probably working with IT infrastructure and data structures is something that you like more than working with business problems, and with real clients, with people, then probably data science is a good fit for you. If you are more interested in working with people and solving business problems and taking kind of a strategic perspective on things, then probably consulting is a better avenue for you, or business strategy, or corporate strategy, or finance, all those related subjects. If I have a goal to work as a data science consultant in McKinsey, Advanced Analytics, BCG Gamma, but I am a finance analyst and have no relevant IT DS degree, which option is the best? Okay, there's no such a thing as a data science consultant, at least for now. There are data scientists, but those are the people that crunch numbers and don't really talk to clients. And I personally think that working as a data scientist in Yandex, for example, or Mail.ru, or some IT company is a bit more interesting than working as a data scientist in consulting. Because in consulting, your jobs, or your data that you work with, will not be kind of state of the art. And well, if you know what I mean by state of the art, like cutting edge algorithm and cutting edge approaches to natural language processing, for example, computer vision, stuff like that. You'll be probably crunching numbers for retailers, for maybe some banks, and basically applying algorithms and approaches that were developed maybe 5 years ago. So not something very challenging to your brains. And at the same time, you won't really be working with clients a lot. Sometimes you will probably participate in some client sessions, but again, remember that the basic soldier, so to speak, of consulting is a consultant and not a data scientist. So if you want to build a career in consulting, if you want to progress in consulting, become manager, office manager, then become probably, hopefully, manager of some practice, and try to work your way further and further in the firm hierarchy, you probably want to work as a consultant, as a pure consultant, and not as a data science consultant. That said, if you are fine with that caveat, and if you want to work in consulting as a data scientist, then the best way to get into consulting, I think, will be to get some experience as a data scientist, probably junior data scientist somewhere else. I'm not sure if consulting companies hire junior data scientists. If they do, then all you need to do is probably take a course on Coursera, course by MFTI and Yandex, for example, the specialization in data science, 5 courses. Then you can participate in some Kaggle competitions, and after gain some experience like that, I think you will be able to apply for a junior position in most companies. I think consulting companies included. Or you can work somewhere else as a data scientist. Maybe while you're still at university, while you're still a student, you can work part-time in some company. And again, if you look through jobs in ODS, I think it's ods.ai. If you look through jobs there, okay, you'll need an invitation. For invitation, you can use my nickname. This one. Okay, and if you go to the jobs channel, you'll find a lot of opportunities for students to work part-time. You can apply there, you can work there, and basically you can work there even if you have minimum knowledge of data science. And this way, you'll get experience. And with this experience in your resume, you'll be able to apply in other companies, consultancies included. So that's, I think, something that I would do if I wanted to follow that approach, and I wanted to go to data science in Big 3 or somewhere else. Okay, chance after 30 to get into Big 3? Yeah, obviously. You can watch an interview at FLES. I think the interview is in Russian, but I think we have English subtitles. The interview is with uh, uh, what was the interview? Let me find the interview. Hold on a second. Big three. Okay, where is it? Okay, the interview with Bora. Yeah, so I just shared the link. This is a link to an interview with a guy who got into Big Three at the age of 35, and he now works there as an associate. So obviously, there are good chances to get into Big Three after 30. And well, I think most questions you will come up with are covered in this video, so I suggest you watch that. Spend 2-3 years to educate myself in IT DS and apply directly. Okay, so this is the question about how to get into consulting as data scientist. Spend 2-3 years to educate myself in IT DS and apply directly. Spend 1 year to prepare for PST case interview. Join as a generalist and try to switch to DS practice. Another option. So the second option will not work because you won't switch to data science. You need knowledge, and you need knowledge, not knowledge in data science. You need the expertise in order to work as a data scientist. A consulting generalist will not be able to switch unless you have this knowledge. So, anyways, you'll need to spend 2 or 3 years of how much you'll need to spend in order to educate yourself in order to get there. So, I suggest that you follow the first approach, that you spend maybe not 2 years, maybe 1 year, 1 year and a half, depends on your speed of learning. Educate yourself in IT and data science, and then apply it directly. Or maybe get a job and work, gain experience somewhere. Participate in Kaggle competitions. Kaggle, in case I think you know, but in case you don't know, Kaggle.com, I think. And then you'll be able to apply. But definitely, the second option is not worth trying, I think. Okay, is it possible to get an internship at PE as a 27-year-old before MBA? Probably not. Well, I think you can try. You can try maybe in Russia, and if you have some very good experience with specific industry that the private equity is interested in, then well, you might have a chance. But I would personally think that no. I think, well, frankly speaking, it's not that easy. Again, well, I think I said it like 5 times. It's not that easy. Well, unfortunately, because it's not indeed. Uh, the problem is that even after MBA, there is no guarantee that you'll be able to get into private equity, because private equity tends to have people with prior private equity experience or investment banking experience or consulting experience at least. And consulting should be Big Three. So if you don't have that, then getting an interview will be super difficult. Unless you have some friends and acquaintances who know that you're smart and who work in those private equity companies and who will be able to help you get into there. That's not, again, time number 6. 6, that's not easy, but that's doable. Other alternatives are not something that I can come up with uh, right away. Well, if someone else who's watching this video knows a way and can say, well, there's an obvious way, there's something you just don't know about, Victor, no, that's the way, then I'll be happy to learn about it. I'll be happy to read about it and maybe let you share your experience. But well, unfortunately, to my experience, nothing else is a viable option. Okay, here's the comment from Mike that he watched the video, registered on ODS. Never had the time. Okay, yeah, I think now you'll have the time. Now, given the holidays, you'll have lots of opportunities in terms of, well, searching through ODS or maybe watching videos. Yeah, stream. Will the stream be recorded? Yes, the stream. Here's a secret. All the streams are recorded by YouTube by default, and I will share them all, obviously, so you can watch. If you miss anything, you can watch later. The good thing about participating live is that you can ask questions and I can answer them right away. And if you watch the video later, well, you just watch me or listen to me answering questions that someone else is asking. Well, that's not that interesting. But at the same time, you can double the speed and you can watch me speaking really fast, but then covering everything very quickly. And then, well, not really. And in this case, you won't be bored by me speaking really slowly and repeating things and, well, uh, really kind of wasting your time. Well, I personally like watching all the videos at the speed 2 times or maybe 3 times, because this way I, well, listen quicker and save my time. By the way, guys, please like the video, because this way more people will be able to see it, and if more people see it, then I realize that this video is useful. Because when I see that there are not many likes on a video, I realize, well, this kind of video is something that people don't like. Okay, I'm not gonna shoot these videos. I'm gonna shoot something else that people like more. So yeah, if you like the video, put a like. I will appreciate it. If you don't like a video, then don't put a like. Then I'll know that you don't want to see it anymore, and then we're gonna change the format and shoot something else. Okay. I wonder, what are your thoughts on master's programs at NES, New Economic School, and whether that kind of education is relevant? Thanks. Yeah, I think it's very relevant. I think that's one of the few really good masters in economics in Russia. So if you're interested in economics and you want to get some good education that you will be able to leverage for a PhD in the United States, or for application to consulting again, NES is a very good option. So yeah, I think if I couldn't go to study, I'd rather say, if I hadn't gone to study at Bocconi, I would have considered New Economic School, because New Economic School is really a good, high quality place in Russia. Okay, yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, thanks. Okay, very good again. I managed to cover all your questions so far. Okay, good job, Victor. Good job. Let's see if someone else comes up with a question. And again, I'm gonna give you 1 minute to come up with questions. If you don't have any more questions, then okay, very good. We're gonna finish here, and we're gonna get back to the questions in, well, something like a month. And by the way, guys, while you're still watching, at the beginning of January, I think January 10th or something, we're gonna run a live interview with Stas, the manager of the curator, so to speak, of School of Data Science at Yandex. So if you're interested in that school, and if you're interested in asking questions about how it works, asking questions about different programs and specializations there, asking about, well, your opportunities after you graduate, then, well, join, ask questions. I think Stas will be happy to answer. If not, well, you can watch the stream of the live interview and recording, and, well, learn all those things later. Okay, 20 more seconds. Let's see. Let's see if anyone comes up with a question. So, and, well, we managed to cover 48 minutes so far. Well, almost the whole hour that I wanted to dedicate to these office hours. Very good. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. No more questions. All right, guys, by the way, next time, if you want to ask a question and if you want to make sure your question is answered first, write your question in the comments before the video, so that I see this question first of all, and then I answer it right away. And then I'm going to tackle all the questions that you ask live. So if you want to have your question answered, put it in the comments. If not, well, if you come up with a question later, then you're very welcome to ask it in the chat. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, guys, for participating. I look forward to seeing you next time in like 3 weeks, and enjoy the holidays, guys. Good luck. Cheers.